So should I share the screen right away or should I wait for some time?
Ma'am, we'll wait. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And in a minute's time, we'll start.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
activating the live streaming.
Yes. Yes.
A very good evening to all. On behalf of IIP technical team, I, Dr. Uttara Mohan, welcome you all to this webinar on diastasis recti, myths and facts by resource person Dr. Aditi Singh. This webinar is being organized by IIP Women's Cell Maharashtra State team. During the webinar, if you have any questions to ask to the resource person, you can put it in the chat section. We are streaming live for this webinar on IIP India YouTube page. Please subscribe to this page to get regular updates when we post our webinars. You can also follow our updates on the IIP Facebook page. So now I ask the moderators to start the session.
Good evening, one and all. A warm welcome for our webinar for today. Here, I would like to take the opportunity to briefly introduce about IIPWC. IIPWC functions under the guidance of National Head Dr. Ruchi Vashne and IIP President Executive Dr. Sanjeev Jha. We have 5 zones in India with heads for each. Dr. Pooja Kamble is the West Zone head. The state team of IIPWC Maharashtra includes State Coordinator Dr. Suvarna Venvi, Joint Coordinator Dr. Snehal Patel, and State Sub-Coordinators Dr. Uttara Mohan, Dr. Priya Karande, and Dr. Nirali Sangvi, myself. We have also organized 31 webinars in past 3 months on topics such as PNF for trunk, NDT, kinetic chain activation technique, fitness testing, SCI rehab series, PCOD, ICF, etc. In the first corporate IIP conference held in 2019, Maharashtra state received award for the best state of IIPWC. We are constantly working towards expanding the scope of activities and workshops for the benefits of our profession. We would appreciate your feedback on our webinars. A humble request to each one of you to please submit your feedback on the feedback links which would be provided at the end of the webinar. Here, I would also like to take the privilege to introduce our speaker for today, Dr. Aditi Singh, on the topic of diastasis recti, myths and facts. It's our pleasure to have you here, ma'am.
Thank you so
Dr.
much.
Aditi Singh, who is a co-founder and managing partner at Revive Multispeciality Physical Health and Wellness Center, India. She is head of physiotherapy at Revive Physiotherapy Clinics, founder of Clinical Pilates India, and founder and master trainer at Fit Mom Pilates Studios. A physical therapist with masters in neurology with over 14 years of experience in physical health care and rehabilitation. She is also a Stott Pilates certified instructor who was trained in Toronto, Canada since 2011. Since then, she has been practicing Pilates, integrating it with physiotherapy for patients suffering from musculoskeletal sports, women's health, metabolic disorders, and other conditions. She has been a resource person and a guest faculty at many prestigious institutions with keen focus on fitness and science of fitness. She has taken various workshops on clinical Pilates. She also takes group sessions, private sessions at Revive Studio. She has special interest in women's health and has developed many programs combining physiotherapy and Pilates for antenatal, postnatal, osteoporosis, and urinary incontinence. Dr. Aditi Singh is interested in science of physical healthcare and she continues to learn, share, grow, and remain a beacon of wellness. Good evening, ma'am. Thank you. You can take over, ma'am.
Thank you, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me here. I would like to start with a thanks to Indian Association of Physiotherapists Women's Cell Branch, Maharashtra, for organizing this webinar, especially in this month, because this month is the International Diastasis Recti Awareness Month. And I have been running a campaign almost throughout this month to create an awareness among different sections of society, including physiotherapists, fitness professionals, and movement professionals. So today I'm here to talk about myths and facts associated with diastasis recti. So I'll be just starting now. Yes, so I think you can see the screen which I'm sharing right now. Yes. Okay, so diastasis recti, it is not a very much spoken subject, both in physiotherapy as well as in fitness industry. Many low back pain cases or incontinence cases or weakness of the core cases can be associated with diastasis recti, which usually is not ruled out during our assessment in clinical practice. So this is one main area where I have been focusing with women patients who have history of pregnancy, maybe whatever age they are in post-pregnancy, they could be 6 months postpartum to 6 years postpartum to 16 years postpartum. But if they were pregnant anytime in their lives, I think this is one area to consider for each of us when we start assessment in our clinical practice. This is the main focus area I feel it should be, because many ladies, they don't talk about the flabby tummy or weakness of they don't understand what is the weakness of the core. So I'll be taking a brief introduction on what do you understand by weak core. Many ladies in the age of 45 to 50, they must be suffering from some kinds of incontinence. It may or may not be associated with diastasis recti, but I think if the lady is walking in with the complaint of back pain or SI joint pain, which is chronic, which has been there for years together. So I think this is one area that we can consider just for an assessment tool, that, okay, that this could be a possibility that why the back pain is been there for a long time, and the lady is been going to orthopedicians, to physios, to massage therapists to heal herself. Yes. So let's come back to the subject line, which is the myths and facts about diastasis recti. So these myths and facts are a list which I have put together according to my clinical experience, according to the clients which I have seen in so many years. So I have been seeing these clients almost now 10 years. More focused, I am almost now 5.5 years post my first pregnancy, first delivery, but I got it. And I am more keen right now since last 2 years after my second pregnancy, when again I got it. And when I again got it with different complications. Being I'm very physically fit, I'm a Pilates teacher, I practice Pilates, still I had weak core post pregnancy. So I'll be just talking about certain myths and facts, that why it can happen and why it should happen. Yes. So, okay, this is me. Nirali, thank you so much for introducing me to everybody. So diastasis recti, it is a separation of the abdominal wall from the midline. Yes. So what is present at the midline when we talk about the our anatomy of the anterior abdominal wall? Midline consists of linea alba, where all our four very important muscles of the anterior abdominal wall it inserts. So you have four major muscles, the two vertical muscles and others are flat muscles. So two vertical muscles are two rectus abdominis muscles. So I am saying two rectus abdominis because it is actually not one rectus abdominis, which is coming from sternum, sternum, your ribs, and it's inserting into the linea alba on your inguinal ligament, on your pubic symphysis. But these are the two rectus abdominis muscle. We call them right rectus abdominal muscle and left rectus abdominal muscle. Yes, so it gets inserted into linea alba. Linea alba is a very strong connective tissue. It is made of collagen, so it's a very strong structure which is there, and for no reason it can stretch. There is only one reason, mostly most important one reason that can stretch this linea alba is pregnancy, because of the effects of hormones like relaxin and estrogen, which actually prepare you when you are pregnant, so that the room of the womb, room of the uterus can be increased. So it has to increase from first trimester to third trimester, and after 36th to 37th weeks of pregnancy, the growth spurts is really fast. Every week there are changes in the size of the baby, the placental size, amniotic fluid fluctuates in and out, you know. So there are a lot of changes which are happening, but most important change is happening, which is the stretching of the anterior abdominal wall, which is pushing the linea alba outward. So the direction of the force is transverse. Yes, so it's anterior and transverse. Because it is transverse and linea alba is a sheath which is there at the midline, it just thins out. So what relaxin and estrogen does during the third trimester of pregnancy, it thins out the linea alba, so it stretches completely. And what pulls apart are the two rectus abdominis muscle, right to left. It just pulls apart. How much it should pull apart is completely dependent on so many factors, like the size of the baby, the height of the mother. The other genetic factors are there. If the mother was exercising pre-pregnancy, or she was now exercising during pregnancy, or if at all she is exercising or no, what is the muscle tone, what is the core strength she has at during that particular time. Yes. So I'm not saying that you should be now start checking for each and every pregnant lady who's coming across to you if you are working with antenatal and postnatal clients. Okay, 37, 38th week is over. Let's start checking linea alba separation or abdominal gap or diastasis recti. No, it doesn't make sense to check for this condition during pregnancy, because actually you cannot help the client. Uh, I have been come across to many people who do taping, who do binding, saying that it might reduce, but frankly speaking, nothing can reduce it if it's there during that last trimester, during the last phase of last trimester of pregnancy. It's there, it's there. So that is one thing. Now that what kind of distance we are looking at to say that it is diastasis recti. So usually we say the distance should be 2.5 centimeters or more than 2.5 fingers gap, but it is just one assessment tool, not exactly an assessment tool, because not many researches have happened or are happening on this subject as of right now. But most importantly, we need to also make sure if it's only the finger gap, 3 finger gap we are looking at, or other factors are also there. So other factors, according to my experience, I should suggest that other factors could be what kind of resistance you feel when you put your fingers into the umbilicus. So what is actual scenario is you ask the patient to lie down on the mat, on the couch, bend the hips and knees, and you ask the client to head off, shoulders off, and come to a crunched position. Yes, where abdominals are flexing. So this is the only position where you want to check it. You don't want to check it in standing position. We don't want to check it in just supine position. We want to check this condition when the muscles are active and contracting. And what is the only way to contract the abdominals is to flex the spine. So when the client is flexing the spine and you have your hands placed at the level of umbilicus, and you see, okay, now what are the how many fingers are getting inside between the right and left borders of the rectus abdominis muscle. This is one thing. Also, the second important thing is that what kind of resistance are you feeling? Are you feeling it just down a deep valley where your hands are going inside, or you're feeling some kind of resistance is there where your hands are hitting the linea alba? Yes, this is second important point, that okay, you feel some kind of resistance or no. So maybe 2 finger gap, 4 finger gap, if the resistance is good at linea alba, the client is in good shape. But maybe 2 fingers gap and there is no resistance at all, you feel there is a valley where your hands are just going down inside, I feel it's a worse situation than having 4 finger gaps with some kind of linea alba resistance. So which says that linea alba is actually a little stronger in the later case than the previous case. Second thing, what's the distance when you start from xiphisternum to pubic bone? Yes, so you check at the level of the umbilicus, you check above the umbilicus, and you check below the umbilicus, and then you come to a conclusion. Oh, it's at the level of the umbilicus, gap is more, or below, above the gap is more, or down the gap is more. You know, things like that, or it's completely open diastasis recti. Yes, so this is the main thing. Now, who gets diastasis recti? 95% cases, when you see the prevalence and occurrence, is pregnancy causes it. The more times you get pregnant, more weaker your core and your muscles, they get more weaker abdominal wall muscles if you have not been exercising, if you have not been focusing on the core strength and the correct posture and the correct breathing exercises. Second thing, it happens in men too, but obesity causes it. Another reason for having diastasis recti is obesity, morbid obesity, where the tummy size is really big and the linea alba has to stretch out. There is no relaxin, there is no estrogen to cause it. So which takes a lot of time to happen, because collagen tissues are the strong tissues in our body. They are the supporting structure, and linea alba is a supporting structure right now in all of us, which supports the viscera, which supports all the other muscles, which supports the pelvis and the rib, and to work in harmony. So linea alba does that. So that is one more reason. And third point, newborn babies, they get it at times, which heals by itself also, or surgery can be another thing. So these are the occurrence and prevalence we see, that why it happens and to whom it should happen. So if you can see, this is the linea alba. Linea means linear, alba is white sheet. This is collagen, very strong collagen fiber. You have transversus abdominis, which is the core muscle. This is a priority core muscle in our body. Yes, so if somebody talks about core, it is not your six-pack, your RA. It is your transversus abdominis, which is forming the core. Core muscles are the stabilizers in the body. Yes, your RA is there to function. It has to move your body. Obliques, they work both. They stabilize your lumbopelvic. They provide lumbopelvic stability, or both the obliques, but they are again the movers of the body. Yes. Another important core muscle which functions in harmony with TA is your PFM, your pelvic floor muscle. So that's why I was mentioning to begin with, if somebody is having incontinence kind of a problem, or stomach bloating, which the ladies who suffer from diastasis recti, they usually say that we have leak, or we have suffering from constipation, which is never there, or some kind of stomach bloating. This is because the anterior abdominal wall is not able to support the visceras. Secondly, the pelvic floor is again not working the way it should work. Yes, so these are the structures. So you can see these muscles groups are there. And now next slide will show the RA also. RA is the most superficial muscle, which was not there here. But RA is the most superficial muscle, is the six-pack ab, which everybody in today's time needs it. And I think having to want these strong abdominal muscles is causing more problem than good, usually in postpartum ladies. That's why I think for last 7 to 8 years have been seeing a lot of cases of diastasis recti, saying that they have lost maybe 10 to 12 kgs of weight in 6 months to 1 year time post baby. And then you ask them what they have been doing, they say that they were watching some random video on YouTube and they were exercising, and they exercised it so hard that the abdominal gap has become so bad. And then now they are addressing the issue that they don't have the firm abs, they have more flabby abs. Yes. Okay, so let's come to the point, myths and facts. So myth number 1, it is abnormal to get diastasis recti. So many people, they come to me, they feel that it's something abnormal. They never heard about it. Their moms never got it. Their sisters never got it. Their friends never got it. But I think when they got it, they just got it. And maybe their moms and sisters and relatives must got it, but nobody talks about it. So this is absolutely normal to get diastasis recti post pregnancy. It is one of the very commonest thing which happens post pregnancy, post 2 deliveries, post 3 deliveries. But what happens is it heals by itself. So for many people, post 4 to 6 weeks to 8 weeks time, it heals by itself. Yes, if you can see the picture, there are different presentations of diastasis recti. The first one, the topmost one, is the normal one. The second one is open, and then you have below navel, above navel, and then complete diastasis recti. Complete diastasis recti is directly from your xiphisternum till the pubic symphysis. Yes. So this is a complete normal condition. So if you get a patient saying that it's something abnormal, no, it's completely normal thing. But some people, they get it more, some people they get it less. For some people it's 2 finger gap, for some people it's 5 to 6 finger gaps also. It totally depends on what they have been doing with their core, what they have been doing with their bodies. Myth number 2. I think everybody, the students will love it. I didn't know what to name this myth, but why I wanted to put this into the myths and fact list, because past some years I have been getting random calls from some professionals saying that they must have heard about this term, and then men and women, when both they go to their fitness center for exercising, and they do CrossFit training, they do HIIT, and they do a number of exercises with them. And when they see, okay, let's check your abdominal strength, how it is. And then if a boy or a girl, they might be having a very good sculpted, toned abdominal muscle, but this ridge we can see in the center. Yes. So they call and they're like, the muscle tone is very good, but this ridge is there in the center, which is very hard and very taut. Is this also diastasis recti? So no, so this clear segregation cannot be called as abdominal gap. This is your linea alba, which is very strong, which is very taut, which is holding the muscles together. So any boy or any girl who, any girl rather, who have had no history of pregnancy, and if you just touch and feel that back issues are there, maybe let me see if she has diastasis recti, and you feel, oh, my finger is, one finger is going, oh, my two finger is going, no. So usually your linea alba has gap. Your both RA, your left RA and right RA is actually separated, right? So it is separated, but what is holding it? The linea alba is holding it. Yes. So this was my second point, to say that if somebody is no history of pregnancy, no history of obesity in adult men and women, and a taut linea alba is a taut and strong linea alba. Yeah, it has to be separated from a gap, a valley which has no tone, less core strength or no core strength at all. Let's go to the third myth. Diastasis recti can be prevented with right exercises during pregnancy. This has also been happening. I have been hearing it a lot, that some YouTube videos, random YouTube videos, you just pops out and says exercises to prevent diastasis recti, or exercises to prevent abdominal separation. You cannot prevent it. It's a normal occurrence of, it's a normal physiology which is happening, linea alba has to stretch. Let it stretch. What the pregnancy exercise do there, or what pregnancy exercises they do during that time, it makes the muscle more strong. It might reduce the severity of having diastasis recti to that particular woman, but it cannot just stop diastasis recti to happen. Again, there were so many factors. If the girl's height is maybe 4.9 or 5 or 5.1, and she has a big baby, the baby's weight during the last trimester is going to 3.5, 3.7. I mean, where the expansion happened, she does not have height. If she does not have height, her structure is petite, she's small structure. So it has to expand anteriorly. So saying that, okay, we will prevent it, we should say we can reduce the severity of it, and let's teach you more about effective breathing. Let's teach you more about having a good posture. Let's teach you about having a good core connection, with yourself. Have good core connection in each and everything you do. When you are lifting, maybe you have a toddler, maybe you have 5 years old when you are carrying. So when you have to lift the 5-year-old or 6-year-old, what are the lifting techniques so that you are not causing any damage to the spine? Or and if you really feel that this lady is going towards to have a serious case of diastasis recti, you should tell do's and don'ts at that particular time during the third trimester, that these are the things you should do and these are the things you should not do. And you check her postpartum if she really has it and how severe it is, and then we can manage it. So I'm again repeating the third myth. It can be prevented with right exercises during pregnancy. This is my experience. This is uh, my opinion on that. Maybe somebody's opinion will vary. It could be, but what I feel, the normal physiology will allow it to happen, and I feel that we should allow it to happen. But make the muscles more strong, make the core more strong, make the lady more aware of her body, provide her more body awareness exercises, good body imaging techniques, you know. So those antenatal exercises will help in that way. Myth number 4. So you can see some tummies, and if students are there, they are like, oh, wow, what kind of tummies we are looking at right now? Where are the six-pack abs? So we are talking about diastasis recti, so no six-pack abs here. Sorry, I'm so sorry about that. So the third myth says that the problem isn't rectus abdominis muscle only. So strengthen the muscle. Okay, so why I had put these images here? Because the problem is not only in rectus abdominis muscle. The problem is with the connective tissue. The problem is with the linea alba. The problem is with the collagen. Yes, so there is out of the connective tissue, is stretching the muscles apart. And what all is inserting in the linea alba? Not only rectus abdominis muscle, but your internal obliques, your external obliques, your transversus abdominis, all are inserting into the linea alba. So all these muscles are affected. When all anterior abdominal wall muscles are affected, the posterior sling muscles, anterior sling muscles, everything will get affected. Because right, when we talk about posture, if somebody has chin poked out posture, we know that that person will have shoulder drop down, rounded shoulder, the pectorals will be tight, and then it will depict a picture of maybe upper cross syndrome, right? Because not one structure in our body is isolated. Everything is so well connected in our body. So if you have rectus abdominis, if your client has rectus abdominis, sorry, so the problem is not only in your six-pack ab RA, the problem lies underneath everywhere. Also, the problem lies within the fascia. So if you can look at the first image, there is no umbilicus. If you can see the umbilicus is a button-shaped structure. Yes, there is no umbilicus. I can't see. There is a line, a straight line. Yes, and if you see that line is shifting towards the left side of this lady. Yes. Come to the next picture. Next picture, you feel that again umbilicus is not button shaped. So okay, the first image, this lady was 2 years postnatal with a daughter, only one pregnancy, not 2-3 pregnancies to give her this kind of tummy to look at. Because we usually say if you like more pregnancies, it affects more, but this is only one delivery she got, and it was natural delivery. So we'll come back to that point, natural or C-section. Second image, you see this lady was 13 years postnatal, and she was doing everything. She was going to gym, she was doing planks, she was doing deadlift, she was in Malaysia, she came to Bangalore, she met a sports physiotherapist because of her low back pain, And she kept meeting this physio for low back pain for quite some time. Until this sports physiotherapist, he has a very good name in Bangalore. I have high regards for him. He sent this case to me saying that, Madam, please check if she has diastasis recti, because whatever I have done, I'm not able to solve her back pain problem. And when she came to me, she has had 3 finger gaps. Yes. So then we started to treating her. If you can see the third image, which is down, again, if you see the umbilicus, it is not the button shape, right? It is a triangular shape. If you see you still feel that, something is stretching laterally her umbilicus. It's making a triangular shape, which something is stretching on both the sides and something is stretching down. This lady, twins delivery 6 years ago when she came to me, again referred by a sports physiotherapist to me. The fourth image is of a lady. She is gymming. She does, you can just name the activity. She just wants to be fit. I think her older son was 6 or 7 years, if I'm not wrong, when she came to me. And if you can see, the umbilicus is button shaped, but if you can see the ridge or a dome which is coming out from the midline, yes, so whatever she does, this dome does not go. And she has complaints of bloating, major complaint that she has bloating. And she has upper cross syndrome. She has very less incidences of low back pain. No incontinence problem. Oh, she had incontinence problem, I'm sorry, but incontinence problem for her was the tight pelvic floor rather the weak pelvic floor. If you see the first image, she has incontinence, she had constipation, she has low back pain, she has shoulder pain, and she really had very poor posture. So these are the different presentations of different scenarios where somebody had twin delivery, where somebody was 13 years postnatal, where somebody was only 2 years postnatal. Yes, so it's like once you are postnatal, you are always postnatal. So that's why I say once you have diastasis recti, you will always have diastasis recti if it's not being treated. Yes, have not been considered to be one of the conditions which should get treatment. Myth number 5. So this happens a lot. Diastasis recti can only be cured with surgery, or I can also put it like you cannot get flat back or flat tummy, after having diastasis recti. So it is completely not true. I have seen cases recovering from 4 to 5 finger gaps to 2 to 3 fingers gap in just few months. And the technique is very simple. The techniques are right breathing, right engagement of core, nothing major. This is no rocket science which we are talking about. This is very basic. We are talking about basic anatomy right now here. Yes. Also, many people, they want to go for surgeries because I think insurance covers surgeries and physiotherapy in India is not covered. And many a time the ladies, they belong to corporate world where they have to travel. And I have seen 2 of my patients, they have undergone knife because they couldn't wait for the exercise to take its own course. So they are like, Aditi, we have to get it done. We have to get it done because when I go to airport, people, they stop me and say, are you pregnant? When I'm in the airport bus, they give me place to sit. My son is 13 years old. I am not pregnant right now, but I do look pregnant and I can't wear good corporate stuff, So many people, they undergo a knife, but they come back to you for core strengthening. They come back to you for good postural correction exercises, and then you teach them effective techniques to deal with their own body. Yes. Myth number 6. Not all mummy tummy means diastasis recti. So not all fat bellies means they have diastasis recti. So not each and everybody you start poking. Okay, you're 55 years old. I've just attended this webinar. Maybe you have back pain, which I'm not able to treat this back pain. Let's start poking the lady. No, there have to be some specific symptoms which are associated with that. Yes. So this is the thing. The next myth I would say It's a very controversial topic. Abdominal corset or splints, they help in healing diastasis recti. So across all the cultures, across all socioeconomic backgrounds, we see that, and it was there in, in our history, ancient times also, that post delivery daimas used to be there. They used to just tie a cloth around the belly of the new mom, which has been happening now also. uh, and now it's a little more sophisticated. We don't tell them to tie a sari or a cotton cloth. What we do that, we give them a splint. Yes. So see, I should not say it's a myth. It's again, both the things are there. I do recommend splint to a lot of my clients. Who are those clients? I should recommend splinting abdominal corset to my clients whom I feel they have 4 to 5 fingers abdominal separation. It's complete valley inside. There is no resistance of linea alba. I can't feel linea alba. If I feel that umbilical hernia could be a problem in later on in life, if we are not dealing it with right now, if I feel that she has too many things at home to do, maybe 2 3 kids are there and she's a working woman also, that time I do tell them, okay, you can have abdominal corset, not to reduce the abdominal separation or to reduce the gap, just to support the low back. Because if the abdominal separation is too wide and there is no core strength, and she is too busy and she is too hassled and she's so much under stress to do a lot of things, then I will also be worried, okay, she should not undergo any severe low back pain issues, sorry. That time I would like to recommend, but for a very short period of time. And I will also tell those women that if you are wearing the corset, you are wearing it temporarily. The main thing is exercise, and I will also ask them to come to the exercise sessions. And if I feel that they can't come, maybe once a week only they can come, then I can't force anybody. But I would be able to give them a home program so that they would be able to do some exercises at home. When I don't want to recommend abdominal splints or corset is when I feel the finger gap is maybe 2 to 3 finger gap, the lady is exercising regularly, she has no back pain, uh, things like that, where the severity is not too much. That time I should say, okay, no need to wear the abdominal splint. Also, immediate postpartum, you can actually prescribe for 4 to 6 weeks time, till the time the healing process is happening. Anyways, nobody comes to your clinic during that period, so that time you can recommend. Again, you can see what is the socio-economic background of that particular client. If she was exercising, if she was your client pre-pregnancy, during pregnancy, no need to recommend again, because you know that she would be exercising during that time also. Yes. The next myth: it is impossible to heal diastasis recti if not attended immediately postpartum, which is again untrue. That's what I said in the beginning also, that postnatal client can be 6 months postpartum to 6 years, 16 years, 20 years. It can be healed. These are the muscles. These are the muscles which need strengthening, and you know how wonderfully these muscles they work when you strengthen them, on consistency, with patience, with hard work. They really work. Linea alba is collagen, so load the collagen, load it gradually, it will work. So it works. uh, Other than just loading the linea alba, or I'm sorry, loading the collagen or working on the muscle fiber, I think look around if fascia tightness is there, if any pelvic girdle dysfunctions are there, correct them also. Any pelvic floor issues are there, correct them also. Also, when should you check for the diastasis recti? I specifically use this term immediately postpartum, means in a day or two. So see, diastasis recti happens, but it heals by itself in many ladies. It heals, maybe you give time for 4 to 6 to 8 weeks time, and it heals by itself. So give that time. I know many of antenatal physios, they work in hospitals, in all corporate hospitals, where you have to visit the lady post-delivery, right? So that time, do the normal breathing exercise and stuff which you are doing. Don't check for the presence of abdominal separation during that time. Doesn't make sense. It will be there. And just give time for healing. It heals by itself in 6 to 8 weeks time, I told earlier also. So give that time. Call that client back after 8 to 10 weeks, and then you check for it, and then you start with the process of correction. Okay, now myth number 9, avoid planned spinal flexion exercises like sit-up, Pilates 100, obliques, and similar exercises for life. Many people, they say, oh no, you cannot do this, you cannot do this, you cannot do this. Yes, I also say to my clients, if that client comes to me with 4-finger separation, no resistance of linear elbow, poor posture, I just don't tell them to start with planks, right? I want to first restore, I want to close the gap, I want to realign the muscles, I want to see the associated factors. But I want to start these exercises gradually and eventually. That I will start. Give me time to start these exercises. But your main aim as a physiotherapist to make them do whatever they want to do with their body, to make their muscles, to make their collagen so strong that maybe after 6 months or maybe after 1 year, they are able to do n number of activities, and they could say, oh, I had 4-finger gap, and this physiotherapist has made me to come to a point right now that I am able to maybe climb Mount Everest, do maybe 1,000 push-ups, whatever, which is possible. But to begin with, I will say don't do that. So these exercises are not tata bye bye for life, but for some time. The main thing is that how to get these clients for functional training, which is more important. Now, core does not mean, so if I am been talking about core for a long time right now, and you say, oh, she's saying that sit-ups are not good, Pilates 100 is not good, and obliques is not good for core strength to begin with, then what are the exercises? So I must say, core exercises doesn't mean that you have to keep on doing spinal flexion exercises. Core exercises means you engage your core in each and every activity which you are doing from morning till evening. So your core should be connected well. It doesn't mean that tuck your belly button inside and walk like a robot. No. So there are techniques you need to learn. You need to teach to your client. Many people, they say just tuck your abs in and work in the kitchen, tuck your abs in and go for a run, tuck your abs in and go for walks. No, tucking your abs in is not the way to connect with the core. There are many exercises, how just simple arm movements you are doing, and you can have good connection with the core. Simple leg movements you can do with very good, nice connection with the core. Breathing, Pilates breathing is one of the wonderful examples of not doing anything but have good connection with your TA. And I have seen the results with only breathing and fascia stretch. It gives so wonderful results without doing anything else. Yes, so there are stages of what you should do, what you should not do. You should be able to see it, what is coming to you, and then you should be able to again grade. Now each body is not different, each body's requirements are not same. Sorry, each body is different, each body's requirement is not same, their goals in life is not same. Somebody just wants to sit at home and do work in front of the computer. She doesn't want to go for even walks. Some people, they come with you, they are like, we want to do trekking, we want to do wall climbing, we want to do a number of things. So we again have to see what our client needs, but these all exercises can be done, and functional training comes in that, in the whole process of programming, exercise programming for a diastasis recti case. Okay, so now my myths and facts list is over. I am going to show you a video. I hope it runs here. Okay, so if you can see this video, I can play it again once more. If you can just see, she's breathing. She's doing diaphragmatic breathing here right now. So just make a sense of what is actually is happening there. What is she doing right now? I'll play the video again. Yes. If you can see, if she is diaphragmatic breathing, where she is inhaling in through nose, bulging the belly out, and she is exhaling out through mouth, in pursed lip breathing, connecting with T and pelvic floor. So when she was inhaling, you see now where is the umbilicus present for her? Is it in the midline? Is it in the center? If you can see, if you see very carefully, you can make out that the umbilicus is shifted towards the left side of the client. It is towards the left side, if you can make it out. And if you can see the midline, which is traveling from her xiphisternum to the pubic bone, is diverting towards the umbilicus and coming to the center, if you can see that. So this is happening. So why this is happening? See, if the problem is only at the anterior abdominal wall, this wouldn't have happened. The problem is with the fascia. The fascia is pulling on one side. Yes, so you need to really release that fascia. The facial structure also get compromised. This is the one video which I wanted to show you here. And when she is exhaling out, see what is happening. There is 1 second, sorry. Yeah. Play it again, 1 second. So now when she is exhaling out, everything is going inside towards inside the valley, which is in between two borders of rectus abdominis muscle. She had wide gap. She had 4 to 5 fingers gap. Yes. So next, come to the next video. If you see here, I'll play it. She's the same lady. She had triangular shape abdomen, which I showed it to you. So what I'm asking her to do, abdominal breathing. With that, I'm just asking her to come towards slight posterior tilt of the pelvis, like similar thing which we do in isometric abdominals. And you see there is no change at the umbilicus. Umbilicus is the same. When she is inhaling also slightly wider, and when she is exhaling also. So what is actually happening in her case, lots of stretching or pulling is happening from within inside the abdominal wall. You know, the fascia is stretching it nicely. And so much of compromises happen in this, and she was doing all Surya Namaskaras, all flexions, which I've told her initially not to do. Yes. So yeah, so these are the two things. So I think I'm done with my list of myths and facts. I wanted to show you guys 2 videos of 2 of my clients. And this is me. We are also, one more thing, I'm coming up with one live session on Instagram. If any one of you would be interested to join me on Wednesday at 7 p.m. in the evening, which is on my Instagram page at Pilates with Aditi. I'll repeat it. Pilates with Aditi is my Instagram page. I'm doing a Insta live session for fitness professionals, for postnatal women who are fitness enthusiasts. Yes. So you're most welcome to join me there also. Please come. Also, there is a course coming up on diastasis recti in the month of August, which is on 14th, 15th, and 16th. I'm doing module 1 and module 2. So these are the 2 informations I thought I can share right now here. Yes, so I am done for the evening. Any questions and answers, please let me know. Okay, any questions, please let me know. Answers I will tell.
Yes, there are a few questions. As there are the first questions, ma'am. What
Yeah.
are the symptoms and does it pain? Just
What
or just
does it pain?
inconsistency in the problem?
Sorry, I can't hear you. Priya,
Hello?
can you be louder, please?
Yeah, ma'am. The first question is, what are the symptoms and does it pain or just inconsistency is the problem?
So they don't complain of pain at where the separation is there. They don't complain at all. There is no pain. Very few times, 2 days before, I saw a case where she had severe pain at the lower abdomen. I mean, below the umbilicus. But I'm not sure if that was because of diastasis recti. I think she had laparoscopy done in previous some years ago. So they don't have pain. And second thing, what did you ask? If they have incontinence?
Inconsistency in the problem.
Inconsistency in the problem. What does it mean? Sorry.
I also don't understand, ma'am. but the question was like that.
Okay, if you
That
can
can
ask that person to little more elaborate what he or she wants to ask.
Asma Alam, she questioned that. Okay.
Okay.
Can we move to the next question now?
Yeah, please move to the next
Yeah.
question.
The second question is, while checking the diastasis at the navel, is it little painful while pressing?
No, in my experience, it doesn't hurt.
Okay.
See, it's not the it's actually not a problem. Yes, it's a biomechanical error which is happening. So it's not like that somebody comes with low back pain and you check for the tenderness, you check for the spasm. It is not like that. So it doesn't hurt usually. The muscles are too flabby and your hands just go inside. Your hand will not go inside if the linea alba is showing some kind of resistance underneath. Yes.
Okay. The ma'am next question is also same like that. Is any other method to assess diastasis recti other than the finger width method?
No. This is a more accurate one, and then you can check it on every intervals. You can check it. So it's a very accurate, and it tells you, and it tells the client also where they were and where they are right now.
Okay. And the next question is, while starting core strengthening exercise after 10 to 15 years of pregnancy, should we start with the diastasis exercise, diastasis recti exercise first?
See, if the patient or your client is having diastasis recti, yes, you should start with those. If the ladies come for some other reason and you found out, which I usually do, I usually find out with many ladies that they have this issue, but what issue they come to you, you solve that issue. This will be the associated issue or could be a combined issue. Yes. So if the lady is coming for low back pain, I want to first sort out the low back pain and then I would like to go for diastasis recti, but I would start with the corrective exercises of the diastasis recti. Yes.
Yeah, ma'am. The next question is, the factors those exaggerate the diastasis recti during the pregnancy.
Okay, the factors which will exaggerate will be wrong posture. If they have not been sitting in a very good posture. At times it happens when they have a sitting kind of a job and they are just sitting for a long time. So wrong posture is one thing. Second thing, during the last trimester, try to avoid inversions. After 37th, 38th week, try to avoid all the inversion exercises like downward dog, planks. All those exercises should be avoided during the last phase of third trimester. So you can at least control the severity of having this condition.
Okay. The next question is, does diastasis occur in older women 50 to 60 age with the multiple pregnancy?
Okay, so the occurrence doesn't happen when they are 50 to 60 years. It is there. It is there when they delivered their last baby. If the lady had 2 kids or 4 kids, if they had the full stop at that time, she had diastasis recti during that time. It was not healed, and that's how maybe right now when she's 50 or 60, she's coming to you. You are getting to know it's there, but it cannot happen when they are older. Also, I think I missed out in my myths and facts. I think I would have put it. People they say that diastasis recti is it should be more in people who have undergone C-section. It has nothing to do with the type of surgery. Oh, sorry, type of delivery. It has nothing to do with type of delivery in the first pregnancy. Second pregnancy, the first pregnancy was C-section, the muscles are a little bit more weaker. But if you tone the muscles and if the gap was 4 to 5 years and the lady is exercising well, I think muscles are more strong and she might not get severe diastasis recti. So it's completely independent of the type of delivery. It doesn't happen because of C-section. It happens because of pregnancy.
Yeah, ma'am.
Next question, please.
There is another question, that is, what are the symptoms of diastasis recti?
See, the symptoms are they will be having first thing low back pain which will be on and off low back pain, abdominal bulge. If they don't have low back pain, they will come to you and say that I am 5 to 10 years postnatal, still I look pregnant. Whatever I do, My tummy doesn't go inside. My arms are lean. My glutes are toned. My legs are toned. But only one thing, that my abdominal muscles are not at all getting toned. They are so flabby. Wherever I go, people, they ask me if I'm carrying again, if I'm pregnant again. That is the one most common thing which I get to hear. With that, they have bloating. They might have continence, and con is very subjective. Not every case of recti will have constipation or symptoms of PFM, but some they have it. So it's better to know about it.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. The next question is, should crunches be avoided for diastasis recti?
See, I answered it, I think, in my last slide when I was talking about that avoid all spinal flexion exercises for life. But you should avoid it if the finger gap is more than 2 to 4 finger gap. Avoid it to begin with, because you don't want to increase the gap. What happens when you flex? You increase the gap. Yes, and you don't know what are the associated factors. If there is any kind of pelvic girdle dysfunction, if the fascia tightness is there, how the posture is, how effective the breathing is also there. So avoid it to begin with. If you have a lady of 3 to 4, 2 finger gap, do that with other things, obviously. So crunches is not one thing. See, the action of your rectus abdominis or the anterior muscles of your abdominal wall is to flex. Yes, so they have to flex. You have to involve the flexion. Crunching is one exercise, or crunches is one exercise where you can involve flexion. Flexion has to be there, but see which patient you want to do, which patient you don't want to do.
Ma'am, there is a next question. That is, a pregnant woman who gets linea nigra during pregnancy is an indications of diastasis
No. It's completely a skin change. Linea nigra, it has nothing to do with diastasis recti.
Okay. What is the criteria to cover diastasis recti, or is there classification to grade diastasis recti?
See, with my practice, I think I have my own classification right now, which won't be there in any book, which I do teach in my courses. So if you're really interested in knowing the classification, do join me in the course, because I don't want to announce it here right now. Because what I have seen during my practice, so there is classification like mild, moderate, and severe. So it also depends not only about, again, I'm saying, is not about the gap. Yes, it is about the associated factors also. So there are no classification as such which is given in any book, but with practice, if you see more cases, you can have some idea of what is the mild case and what is the severe case. You don't have to actually put it into any category, any classification as such for your own self. But I think when you see cases, okay, this is a little severe form and this is little, if somebody is coming with umbilical hernia, I get many references from surgeons. So ladies, they go to surgeons saying that they have some kind of abdominal gap, or they feel they have, umbilical hernia. So these surgeons, they refer the cases back to me saying that it's a severe form of diastasis recti. The patient might get umbilical hernia, but I don't want to operate on her because she does not have umbilical hernia, so they can't put mesh, and they don't want to go for any abdominoplasty or any tummy tucking surgery for the client. So they send the client saying that make the muscles more stronger. So they say that case is more severe because it might go towards umbilical hernia. Diastasis recti also occurs with umbilical hernia, which is again the most severe form. So classifications are there, but not too well defined as such. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. The same question is as you explained. Is there any standardized method to assess diastasis recti? The
Just
same.
the finger gap you see, you check the linea album tautness, you travel down from xiphisternum to pubic symphysis to check it. You check the fascia, you check the pelvic floor. That's it.
There is another question, that is approximate postpartum week to assess diastasis recti.
I must say 8 weeks onward.
Okay. Next question is, ma'am, how to differentiate between normal low back pain and low back pain due to diastasis recti?
Check for diastasis recti.
Yeah.
If diastasis recti is there, then see what happens in diastasis recti. It is actually primarily not causing low back pain, but the muscle has lost its integrity, right? The muscle has to flex, muscle has to work, muscle has to take the load of the body, right? So you have anterior abdominal wall and you have the back spinal extensors. They should be in balance, right, to take the load of the body. If this lady is having maybe 2 kids or 1 kid before the newborn, the loading should happen. The muscle has lost its integrity. So the back pain is a secondary factor which happens, but you have to just check for it. If it's there, it's there.
And Priyanka Kumbhar, she has asked that if they have symptoms, then only we have to start with the diastasis exercise.
No, I didn't understand. Sorry. If what?
If they have symptoms, diastasis recti symptoms, then only we
See,
have
nobody
to start.
walks in with symptoms of diastasis recti. It's like somebody is walking to you with tennis elbow pain and they say pain is here. Then you're like, okay, do some test and it's tennis elbow. But yeah, they will have abdominal weakness and you have to test for it. Some people, they do search on Google and come to you saying that diastasis recti. And when one lady, I think some 3-4 years ago came like that, my receptionist didn't know how to pronounce that word also. She's like, ma'am, somebody is looking for some recti rehabilitation. You know, things like that.
Okay.
So
There
it can be
is a
there with any of postnatal client of yours.
okay. There is a question that is the do's and don'ts for patients with the diastasis recti.
Okay, so do's are the do's. They can do anything and everything in life. They should be able to do. The don'ts are during that particular stage when you are starting the healing process and restoring the gap. That time the don'ts will be, don't do any inversions, don't do any planks, don't do any severe flexions of the spine. These are the things. But later on, when you are coming towards the functional training, I think you should be able to do everything.
Okay, ma'am, this is the last question. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Oh, that was the last question. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, ma'am, thank you for a good explanation and good evening, everyone. That I honor to have I'm very lucky to give this opportunity to say the vote of thanks on this special occasion. Behalf of the entire team, I express my gratitude to Dr. Aditi Singh, where she explained everything very clearly about the diastasis recti, the myths and the facts about that. Thank you, ma'am, for a good explanation. I hope
Thank
you
you so
all
much.
enjoy. I hope you all enjoy this webinar. And I must not forget these participants because enthusiastically they participated generally in this webinar. And the questions was amazing. And thank for answering all the questions
Thank you so
gracefully.
much.
Yes, ma'am. No program can be successful without our IAP President, Dr. Sanjeev Jha, sir, National Head, Dr. Ruchi Vaishnav, ma'am, and my big thanks to our zonal head, Dr. Pooja ma'am, Dr. Suvarna Ganvir ma'am, Dr. Snehal Patel ma'am, who has unique perspective to lead the team and has a fantastic work. Many thanks for the technical team, Dr. Uttara Mohan ma'am, and my co-worker, Dr. Nirali Sanghvi ma'am. I hope you all enjoy this webinar.
Yes. Thank you so much. I hope I was able to give an insight on diastasis recti because it is not a very common topic which is there in any conference or any seminars which are happening. So thank you so much again for having me here. Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you, ma'am.
And
Thanks
that's
a
it.
lot.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank you everybody.